I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, President Trump leaks Israeli intelligence to Russia. The Israeli government is debating over whether or not to bomb a disturbing crematorium in Syria. And it might be time to start planning your next trip to Israel because we'll reveal some shockingly cheap new flight deals. Stay tuned for the latest news in Israel. U.S. President Donald Trump is coming under increasing pressure to explain why he shared highly sensitive Israeli intelligence with Russia at a meeting in the Oval Office exactly 1 week ago. Now there are new reports that the source of that intel was an Israeli spy embedded in the Islamic State whose life may now be in danger because of the leak. Washington officials say Trump told Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak about an ISIS plan to sneak explosive devices onto planes bound for the United States, all by hiding them in laptops. Passengers from several countries were subsequently forbidden to bring their computers, iPads, and other electronic devices on board. Now, multiple media outlets report that the president's, quote, loose lips have not only put the Israeli agent who provided the information in serious danger, but that the disclosure also allegedly violates the basic tenets of intelligence sharing. Israel traditionally passes on top-tier information to only its 5 closest allies, including the U.S., the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Sensitive information is not shared with Russia due to its cooperation with Syria, Iran, and the Hezbollah terror group, all of which pose a grave threat to the Jewish state. Now, American legislators, including Trump's fellow Republicans, want to know more about why the president revealed the top-secret information to the Russians in the first place.
The Intelligence Committee, I think, has already requested additional information. I have a lot of confidence in Chairman Burr and Senator Warner to handle that whole matter perfectly. I think it would be helpful to have less drama emanating from the White House.
In the wake of reports that the president disclosed classified information with the Russian foreign minister and the Russian ambassador, we Democrats are united in believing that the president must make transcripts of those conversations available to the intelligence committees. The president should make full, unedited transcripts available immediately. No ifs, no ands, no buts. If the president may have put national security and our intelligence operations at risk, Congress has the right to know about it.
Well, the new American ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, only arrived in Israel less than 48 hours ago, but he's already hit the ground running. He has not only met with all the top leaders in the Jewish state, but he's even just announced a potential breakthrough in the peace process. The new American envoy formally presented his credentials to Israeli President Reuven Rivlin in Jerusalem. After exchanging greetings shortly after Friedman's swearing-in ceremony, he met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The premier made mention of Friedman's visit to the Western Wall, known as the Kotel in Hebrew, as his first stop after arriving in the country.
Welcome. It's a pleasure to see you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
To welcome you to Jerusalem, our eternal capital. I know you went to the Kotel. It's deeply appreciated by all our people.
No, there was no other place to go. That was the place to go.
It was a strong move, a gesture of solidarity. We look forward to receiving President Trump, and we want to work with you and with the president these coming years to strengthen our great alliance.
We will.
Thank you.
Friedman has just announced that Palestinian Authority head Mahmoud Abbas has dropped all preconditions for resuming peace talks with Israel. The new U.S. ambassador says that neither the PA nor Washington is demanding Israel to first freeze settlement building, which until now has been a significant obstacle to reviving negotiations. Friedman is also disclosing, however, that U.S. President Trump is not planning on unveiling any specific diplomatic plan or a roadmap to peace when he arrives in Jerusalem just 5 days from now. A series of Israeli lawmakers are standing up for Syrians in need by calling on their nation to bomb a Damascus area crematorium that's being used to burn the bodies of thousands of executed political prisoners.
Earlier this week, the U.S. State Department released a report claiming that the government of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has been carrying out the mass killings. It's believed that about 50 detainees are being hanged at Saidnaya military prison every day, and their corpses are then being burned. Israel is outraged, and many opposition ministers like Yesh Atid party leader Yair Lapid are drawing parallels between the world's failure to protect Jews during the Holocaust. Interior Minister Aryeh Deri is supporting the move, but is urging the United States to take care of the problem for having made the allegations in the first place. Earlier on Tuesday, Housing and Construction Minister Yoav Gallant called for Syrian leader Assad to be assassinated, accusing the president of carrying out a genocide against his own people. The Syrian war has killed up to 400,000 people since 2011, contributing to the worst refugee crisis in Europe since the Second World War.
Joining us now in the studio is former Major General and politician Musa Diane to discuss the role that Israel should be playing in the Syrian civil war. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's fun to be here. Thanks.
So let's begin. You know, Israeli leaders, today we're seeing it all over the news, they're debating over whether or not to bomb the crematorium near Damascus in Syria. What kind of impact would doing so have on the state of Israeli relations generally in the Middle East?
Well, it does have an impact, you know. Basically, we don't mess in what's going on in Syria. Our interests are very, very simple. One, we don't want the Syrian to put any danger on our citizens. We want a calm border. We protect our citizens. Two, we don't want the organizations like Hezbollah to have a weapon which are kind of strategic, like shore-to-sea or surface-to-sea missiles. And finally, we don't want Iran to build another outpost in Syria. But when we hear about the crematorium in Syria, it's a Jewish and democratic state, so our Jewish heart take it very seriously.
Absolutely. I mean, many of the leaders here are now comparing what is happening in Syria to what took place during World War II against the Jews. But at the same time, you know, we're seeing other Israeli leaders who believe that the United States should be the one that would carry out an airstrike against these crematoriums, since it was the U.S. that actually revealed this information.
We have to be just and smart in the same time. We can't influence everything. We can change the situation in Syria. And we don't have friends in Syria, you know. In other places, there are good guys and bad guys. In Syria, there are not good guys. There are bad guys, very bad guys, especially, exceptionally bad guys, etc. So we don't influence what's going on in Syria. So if we have an opportunity, I know, to bomb a crematorium, maybe. I'm not sure that Israel is to do it. There are the Americans and the Russians in Syria, and they are running the show. We don't want to be part of it. More than that, you know, Bashar Assad slaughtered more than 500,000 people so far. So the point is not whether he's not burning or not 50 people. He is murdering more than 50 people a day, and nobody cares.
The question is whether or not Israel has an obligation to be helping these people, right?
We have a kind of obligation, but the way to implement this obligation is more to talk with the Americans and the Russians about it, and above all, I don't think that Israel should be the one who eliminate Bashar al-Assad. He's not our friend, but we don't want the other people. I don't know. ISIS is better, or the crazy Sunnis in Syria. So what I'm saying is that Israel should stay out of it to help humanitarian help and internationally, I mean, in a diplomatic relation and an open line with Washington and Moscow in the same time. I don't think that Israel is the one who should go and make the messy Syria even more messy.
Well, I guess we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. Thank you so much for joining us.
Sure.
The Israeli public can breathe a little easier today now that it's just been revealed that security forces have smashed several serious Islamist terrorist plots.
The Shin Bet Security Service has just announced the completion of a long-term mission that broke up a 2-year conspiracy by the Northern Islamic Movement. 2 cell members were arrested in December of 2016, and the third was captured 2 months ago, right after he returned from meeting with a convicted Hamas terrorist in Turkey. The Shin Bet says the investigation exposes a shared ideology and deep connection between the 2 terror groups. Information learned during questioning of the suspects led to the arrests of 3 other men, all of whom are Israeli Arabs. The cell wanted to launch shooting attacks against Israeli soldiers in the Negev in retaliation for Israel's 2015 decision to outlaw the northern branch of the Islamic movement. Just last week, 7 other senior members of the movement were charged with offenses against state security. Meanwhile, the Israeli army has also just revealed the bust of a Palestinian terror cell. 4 men between the ages of 17 and 24 have been arrested for making pipe bombs used in several recent attacks against Israeli troops in the northern West Bank. A 5th Palestinian was arrested for supplying the group with large quantities of fireworks and pyrotechnic supplies needed to assemble the explosive devices.
If you've been wondering just what U.S. President Donald Trump will be up to when he arrives on his first foreign trip in the Holy Land next week, we have the answer.
Here's the presidential itinerary that's just been released by U.S. National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster.
The president will then continue on to Jerusalem, where he will meet with President Rivlin and lay a wreath at Yad Vashem. The president will then deliver remarks at the Israel Museum and celebrate the unique history of Israel and of the Jewish people, while reaffirming America's unshakable bond with our closest ally in the Middle East. Later that day, he will meet with Prime Minister Netanyahu. That night, the President and the First Lady will join the Prime Minister and Mrs. Netanyahu for a private dinner. The following morning, the President will meet President Abbas in Bethlehem, where he will convey his administration's eagerness to facilitate an agreement that ends the conflict. And he will urge Palestinian leaders to take steps that will help lead to peace. And he will visit the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and say a prayer at the Western Wall.
The announcement of Trump's visit to the Jewish holy site comes amid a diplomatic spat in Jerusalem, when a U.S. consulate official reportedly told his local counterparts that Israel has no sovereignty over the holiest site in Judaism. All because it's a part of the West Bank. The White House distanced itself from the alleged comments, saying that they don't reflect the views of the administration.
Joining us now to speak about the U.S. President Donald Trump's upcoming visit is former diplomat and ambassador to Israel, Yitzhak Eldan. Yitzhak had served as Israel's ambassador to Denmark, the Council of Europe, and UNESCO, and he was also the head of the Foreign Ministry ceremony, serving as the president of the Israeli Ambassadors Club. Thank you so much for joining us.
Shalom, Natasha.
Shalom. All right, so it's all over the headlines. President Donald Trump has just released Israeli intelligence to the Russians. Now, how is this going to impact his upcoming trip to Israel?
I don't think that it will have any impact. This visit has a great importance. We, the people of Israel, all of us, are looking forward to welcome the president, because the visit of the president of the United States of Israel is not just another visit. It is the visit that a country can have, and especially a country which feels so close to the United States. It means ally. So for us, it's a very important visit, and nothing, not even changes in the itinerary will not destroy this friendship and this visit.
Well, but speaking about intelligence, is this incident in any way going to change how Israel and the United States share their intelligence in the future or cooperate?
I'm sure that the teams of the 2 countries will study the whole thing. And we heard Ambassador Ron Dermer in the United States speaking about a fantastic cooperation between the 2 establishments of information and intelligence. And I'm sure that it will be only strengthened. We will learn from that, and we will continue.
What has Israel learned from this?
We have to learn always to be careful about information that we are sharing with others, if the story is true. This is what we hear from the news. If it is true, we have to be very, very careful when we exchange information with foreign intelligence authorities, just to learn from this case.
Interesting. I mean, I think there are a lot of concerns right now that this intelligence is going to somehow make its way into Iran's hands through Russia. Is that something that Israel should be concerned about?
No, we are concerned about Iran, certainly. We are concerned about Daesh. But one should say to himself, in the States and all over the world, look at those Israelis. They are defending themselves against Iran. They are defending themselves against terrorism. And they also succeed in having such, if it is true, in having such an intelligence. This small country of Israel is helping the United States in achieving its security goals. So one has to applaud if the story is true. If it is not true, so why to be asked such questions?
I think you're the first person who said that we'd have to applaud Israel for this news item coming out. All right, now turning to an even bigger issue on the ground here in Israel, the Israeli-Palestinian peace process. Why do you think that Donald Trump is so interested in reaching peace in the Middle East and being part of this process? In the past, he's said that he wants to focus on the United States and making America great again, but we're seeing a very, very strong involvement and interest in this specific issue.
Yes, he is a true friend of Israel. He feels very strong about us. He wants to see a Jewish state at peace with its neighbors. And it's also a tradition of all the presidents of the United States and the foreign policy of the United States to try and to achieve peace. It was a challenge for almost every president. And now he believes that he will do it.
Does he have a chance? What do you think?
We have to give the chances for peace at every moment. We in Israel, we have a national anthem called Hatikva. Without the Tikva, without the hope to have peace, so there is no reason to live in this country. And if there is such a man, and you can criticize him, and I know that in the state he's very much criticized. If such a man is ready to enter into this very, very complicated issue and to try to solve it, we have to help him and not put obstacles and problems on his way to Israel.
Well, I think we're all ready to see what happens next week when President Donald Trump finally arrives to Israel. Thank you so much for joining
Certainly.
us.
Thank you so much, Natasha.
Convicted Fatah terrorist Marwan Barghouti has just escalated his hunger strike. He is now reportedly refusing to drink water in his latest attempt to force Israel to give in to his demands for Palestinian prisoners.
The prisoner's lawyer is calling his client's decision a turning point. Barghouti is serving 5 life terms plus 40 years for the murder of Israelis. He declared the open-ended hunger strike on April 17th. While Palestinian sources claim he's being joined by up to 1,500 inmates in refusing food, Israeli officials say the real number's closer to 800. A Palestinian media committee that says it's monitoring the prisoners say they're now experiencing critical symptoms. Israeli prison authorities have been trying to discredit Barghouti by revealing video of him sneaking food. They also just published a list of his demands, which include 20 channels of television, unrestricted books and magazines, air conditioning, and open university studies. He also wants more public telephone use, family visits, and a better stocked prison shop. Israeli government officials maintain the country's prison conditions meet international standards, and they also voice the belief that the popular Palestinian leader initiated the strike as a political challenge against his chief rival, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas.
If you've been considering going on vacation to Israel, it looks like September might be the right time, because starting then you'll be able to purchase flights between Tel Aviv and the United States for just $149. All we can say is wow, literally.
That's right. The Icelandic airline WOW Air has just announced that it's going to be operating flights from here in Tel Aviv to New York, Toronto, Miami, and even San Francisco. The crazy part is that those flights will only cost up to $199. And best of all, the flights will come with the option to stop over in Iceland for a few days, where Israeli and American tourists will have a chance to see the country's beautiful glaciers, waterfalls, and natural hot springs. WOW Air's flights are going to be the cheapest transatlantic fares to ever exist from Tel Aviv, although do keep in mind they don't include a checked bag in the deal. That'll cost another $50. Minister of Transportation Israel Katz is saying that Israel dealt with Iceland directly, as routes from Israel to the U.S. need competition. If the free market is going to mean fares like that, call me a raging capitalist.
Amazing, right? All right, heart failure affects 26 million adults worldwide, and unfortunately, it can be very hard to detect on time. Now, a new Israeli startup has created a non-invasive monitor device that can diagnose heart failure in real time and save millions of lives. Joining us today in the studio is Amir Malmo, CEO of CoreAlert, to tell us more about this new technology. Thank you so much for joining us. This sounds incredible.
Well, we believe it's a revolution in cardiology. We will be able to give the clinicians, the cardiologists, and the patients, for the first time, the ability to non-invasively measure left ventricular end-diastolic pressure, which is an indicator of heart failure and will allow us to predict deterioration of the condition of the patients and correctly diagnose them in real time.
That's absolutely incredible. I mean, the fact that this is non-invasive is amazing. How does this work? How does CoreAlert work?
Our device is a rather simple device to use. It is based on locating a few sensors on the arm and the chest, along with a pressure cuff, together with our proprietary and algorithm. We are able to estimate accurately this index, which is highly relevant and indicative of the condition of the heart.
Unbelievable. All right, so my first question is, can people already access this device? Is it already available, or is it still...
It's still being developed. We are now in the process
We're eager to get our hands on it already. This is a very, very unique product that you've
Hopefully, you won't have to wait long until it will be available. At the moment, we're still developing our alpha model, which we hope to finalize in a few months, and then start regulation studies, and hopefully within a short period, it will be available to the market.
Now, how did you come up with this idea? How did you start creating something like this?
That's a great question. My father, who's also a co-founder of the company, is a professor of cardiology, and he was bothered by this issue naturally and obviously as a cardiologist. And together, after a lot of discussions at the dinner table, we decided to try a certain mathematical approach to solving it, and it worked. And from then on, we're trying to develop this device, and here we are today.
I think I want to grab a seat at the next dinner that the two of you have. You're going to be coming up with ideas like this, because this is really exciting. Now, what is next for the company from here?
We're starting a clinical study to validate our device in this month. And afterwards, we will start regulation study in the next quarter. And after we receive our regulatory approval from the FDA and CE, we will start and market our device.
Beautiful. Well, congratulations. I hope the best for your company, and thank you so much for coming in.
Gladly. Thank you.
All right, immigrating to a new country is never an easy process, but now 7 new immigrants in Israel are at least getting some recognition for their major contributions to the Holy Land.
The diaspora organization Nefesh B'Nefesh has just announced 7 winners of the Bonuseon Prize, an award that's given to English-speaking immigrants who make a big impact on Israel. So, who made the cut? First on the list is Benjamin Korn, who is the head of the Institute of Radiotherapy at Israel's Ichilov Hospital. Second up is Beth Steinberg, who's not only the co-founder of Shutaf Inclusion, which provides programs for children and teens with special needs, but has also founded Theater in the Rough, which offers engaging performances outdoors. Next on the list is Rabbi Chaim Brovender, the founder of webyeshiva.org, and Gerald Steinberg, the president of NGO Monitor. Yoram Ra'anan is also being honored as a contemporary Jewish artist. And finally, Lifetime Achievement Awards are going to Alice Shalvi for her inspiring contributions to shaping the status of women in Israel, and Eliezer Jaffe, who's helped Israeli citizens in need through nonprofit and philanthropic giving. Every year, hundreds of immigrants from English-speaking countries make their way to Israel, so why not celebrate their accomplishments at least once a year?
The Hebrew Word of the Day is brought to you by IDC Summer Ulpan, open to everyone.
And now for our Hebrew word of the day. It can be difficult to keep secrets, just ask U.S. President Donald Trump. So in honor of the American president's loose lips, today's word is sod, which means secret in Hebrew. Let's face it, secrets are dangerous, which is why you should probably never give your sod to anyone. I mean, if you can't keep it to yourself, how could you expect others to? At the same time, keeping a sod can lead to unhappiness and stress, so maybe the key to life is to just avoid keeping secrets at all. Well, if you're the leader of a nation, it's probably much harder to avoid sodot or secrets, so you should probably consider that issue when you're running in the first place. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight will be clear to partly cloudy with a low of 67 or 19 degrees Celsius. And tomorrow is expected to be cloudy with a rise in temperature and a high of 84 or 29 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.6 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for watching.